Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Furry Valley podcast. Thank you for joining me and our guests. We hope you are having a great day and enjoy listening to our discussion. As always, we will be taking questions from our live audience. If any of you have questions, please put them in the podcast text chat, which you will find a couple of channels above the podcast voice chat that you are currently in. Today, I'm joined by DGB, one of our senior community managers, who is leading one of our teams towards creating a 24/7 radio station, and by Frost Stormwind, a fairly new member of the community who we are delighted to have the opportunity to chat with and get to know. How are you guys both doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Finally off and ready to do this podcast.
Doing all right.
Good. It'd be nice for our listeners to get to know a little bit more about each of you. Could you tell us a bit about yourself, please, Storm, first?
Oh, well, I've been in the furry fandom, I want to say 4 or 5 years. I joined when I was 16. I'm a dragon. I enjoy doing tech things. I've built my own computer. Hope I've worked at nothing interesting.
Well, it's good to hear you've been around for a few years. I guess you've got quite a bit of experience then with Furcons, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit. How about you, DGB? Could you please tell our listeners a bit about yourself?
Well, hi, I'm DGB. I go by a lot of other names. We'll stick with that one today. I've been part of fandom communities since about 2004 and an active community goer and a convention goer, since 2006. My first ever was Anime Central, and since then I've gone to at least 5 to 6 conventions every single year. I run my own booths, so I work most conventions, but I also do attend just for fun here and there as I go along.
Gosh, so you've been doing it since I was little. That's pretty prolific amount of experience. I look forward to hearing your insight. Now, I must admit, I've never been to a furry convention. For those of us who have made the sort of intermediary step of going to like a local fur meet or something like that, what are the main differences between a full-on Furcon and what you might expect at a local meet?
Frost, do you want to take this one first?
Oh, I can take this one. One of the biggest differences, depending on the size of your local furry community, is and depending on the size of the Furcon that you go to, is just the sheer amount of people that are going to be around you. It goes from being 10 to 20 people who you might know relatively well to hundreds, if not thousands of people who you have no idea who they are, what their persona is, even like nowadays what their gender is. It can be intimidating at first, and one of the things to just sort of realize is that you just sort of need to take a deep breath, realize that everyone's a furry, just like at your local Furcon. Walk up to someone, say hi, say what your name is, what your persona is, and then go from there.
Oh yeah, going to conventions versus going to like a meet. Meets are a lot more lax. You're going to be usually meeting up at a public place like the pub, or you end up going to an arcade. Some of my friends, we like to go to the movies. It's just a more relaxed situation, and as you continue to go, you really start to make a connection with the people around you. Whereas conventions, I think, in my personal opinion, by far conventions are much more fun. The reason for that is I get to meet people I would not otherwise get to meet. There's always new experiences, and there's a feeling of community whenever you're around a certain group of people that have similar interests as you for 3 to 5 days. It's 3 to 5 days to basically say, I don't live in the real world anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just hanging out here. And it's great. There's so much experience to have, and it's a blast. But honestly, if you're going from fur meets to a furry convention, or let's say, well, any convention really, you'll notice that that sense of community is present in both. But conventions have that special touch that you just can't replicate anywhere outside of those halls.
Because you've just got the furries and it's your own world in a sense, whereas at a local meet you might still have public, because it's public place, you'll have other people sort of coming in and out.
Oh, exactly. That's
Mm.
100% it.
Yeah, and I suppose you mentioned there's more fun and such. I guess because a Furcon lasts for a bit longer, you've got more of an opportunity for the organisers to put on more events for you to do. Whereas at a local fur meet, it's like, okay, maybe we'll have a quiz, maybe we'll go and get some food, but not much else.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I go down to the pub with some people, we can go to the quiz bowl. That's cool. I mean, it's fun to sit down and go to the quiz bowl, do that thing. But whenever I go to a convention, they have these tailored events that are so much fun and so unique that you couldn't do outside of the convention hall. Things like doing certain sardines, which is a big fun party game where a bunch of people go hide together in a group, and one person is the one that's looking for you. So
wow,
massive people all hiding in one spot. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Or doing just sitting down with a group of if you are a little older and can partake, sitting down in a big room and swapping con horror stories and stuff like that, and being able to share your experiences from other places. These are hard to talk about and hard to do in public settings. It's just not realistic. But at conventions, I mean,
it's not as awkward. It's more natural to.
Yeah, it's within as long as it's within the legal boundaries, that it's off limits.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating. I must go to one day. It must find time for it.
Well, I mean, have no idea what you would do at a convention, but I know that
what I personally would do, I wouldn't draw, that's for sure. God. I mean, following on from this, what kind of advice would you have for people like me who are looking to go to their first Furcon?
The biggest thing that I'm going to tell you realistically is I see a lot of people make the mistake of, I need to go to the biggest convention that there is. And for us in North America and the US, the biggest one is by far going to be
MFF and Anthrocon are the two largest.
MFF and Anthrocon. And I mean, if you live in, let's say you live all the way down in the bottom of Texas and you're planning on going to one of those conventions, you're never going to get there. Go to a local convention. Local conventions are so much fun. One of my favorite conventions of this last year was Alamo City Furry Invasion. It was a blast. And that convention, it wasn't big. It was its second year. There was, I think, 1,000 people total, which sounds like a lot, but whenever you go to conventions that are 50,000 people strong and growing, I mean, you really get to see that those smaller conventions can just be a total blast, and you can make really, really good connections at those. Don't make
and I guess
for the biggest, baddest thing.
And I guess it also supports your local Furrycon organisers, and if they see that their attendance is growing, they're more likely to continue, and obviously that provides more for everyone in the long run. So I guess that's another plus of it's like supporting your local market, isn't it?
Oh yeah, just supporting your local meets in cons, because most of your con chairs also meets throughout the year, and that just participating in those gives you more experience, and it will help those organizations grow. If you've noticed that, I see a lot of people all the time telling me, well, there was this one con years ago and there was only like 300 people, I didn't go, and then they just disappeared. Well, that's why.
Because enough people thought, well, I'm not going because it's too small, therefore no one goes.
Exactly.
Do you have anything to add to that, Frost?
Oh, I think my biggest piece of advice is get to know at least one person before you go to a con. Just knowing at least that one person can make or break you, and how many people you're able to talk to, who you talk to, whether you just sort of are able to make new friends or just lock yourself in your room. my first year, I went to BLFC. I knew one person. Next year, I had like 50 people all trying to meet me.
Oh, cool. So you sort of were able to almost like piggyback in a sense of who your friend knew in order to get new connections for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
just knowing that one person also helps you just sort of get a starting point to talk to people. You go,
Yeah.
oh, hey, you're friends with my friend. Let's meet up and have lunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
definitely
it's
think that that's important, but it also depends on the type of person you are. I don't want to
I
discourage people from not going to convention just because they don't have any IRL friends to meet up at those, because it can be a blast either way. But I do agree it is a lot more fun to have one person to tag along with, and definitely it does help your chances of being able to join into groups easier.
Yeah, I think it's probably most relevant for those of us who are a bit introverted, because then, if you've got a friend who'll, tug you by your tail, make you go to these sorts of
Oh yeah, yeah.
parties and events and such, then it's going to be more likely. And speaking of events, I've seen on YouTube excerpts from these various talent shows they have. They look awfully cool.
Oh,
What are the best and worst acts you've seen at one of these?
oh, I mean, so I have a weakness at conventions, and so the talent shows that they do, I love it when people do dances, and I don't mean like going out and doing improv dances, like really well done choreographed dancing is one of my things, and they're so cool. One of the best ones I ever saw was this. Can't remember his name. Anyway, he was a complete full suit, everything ready to go. This guy was doing backflips in a suit
Wow.
and was just nailing it. And
Wow.
it was EDM music, and
Yeah.
he started off solo, and then he brought some friends in to
Yeah.
finish up the routine. It was just amazing. It was really really cool. But I mean, some people do magic and stuff too, and that kind of stuff is amazing to me.
And what's the sort of, I mean, we all love the cringy stuff we see, like on Britain's Got Talent and X Factor and so forth. What's the worst act you've ever seen at one of these sort of furry talent shows?
Singing. There was this one guy that in particular, and I'm not going to blast him. He tried really hard, but he came out with a ukulele and a partial, and he came out and he got out on the floor, and everybody was cheering and doing their thing, and he stood there for about 30 seconds contemplating whether or not he'd just made a very very massive mistake.
Oh no.
And he gets up, he moves towards the mic with his ukulele note and goes, "Heh," and then turned around and left the stage. And they're like, "Wow, well, I guess he's done." And that was the end of it. That was the entire thing. And for the rest of the talent show, because they had everybody lined up on the side so you could see everybody, he was sat on the very edge corner next to the drapery, so everybody in the hall could look over and see him, and everybody just kept looking. Okay,
oh no, so awkward. Oh, feel awfully sorry for him, but gosh.
Yeah, we
came
and gave him a hug. We came over, gave him a hug. He's like, "It's okay, don't cry." And he's like,
"Oh
God, I'm a tough boy." It's like, it's okay.
What about you, Frost? Talent shows, best and worst.
Oh, I don't know if this is good or bad, but actually I haven't gone to many convention talent shows, mostly because most of the time that I'm at the convention, I'm either eating, meeting with friends, or sitting in my room going, "Go away, I don't want to talk to you right now." Too much people.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
The feeling of too many people. That's a real that's a con experience on its own.
You need your me time still, I guess, even when...
absolutely. Whenever you're around 30,000 people, 50,000, even 1,000 people in a day, holy crap, just getting away for 5 minutes and being able to eat some boxed Chinese food is amazing.
You're going to make me hungry. So you've mentioned suitors and partial suitors. I don't have a fursuit of any kind, and I've heard other people be worried about attending Furcons in the sense that they might feel or be a little alienated. if they don't have fursuit? What advice do you give to these people who don't have a fursuit? They want to go to a con, but also maybe a bit introverted. They want to fit in.
Oh, have fun. There's no requirement as to what you come in. I personally, as a vendor, I don't suit for a good 90% of the con, and when I do, it's a partial, and I'm just doing it for fun in certain scenarios. I mean, but you can have fun at a convention no matter what you're doing. I've spent an entire convention just hanging out with the same 5 people and going and eating amazing food in the middle of Chicago. And coming into the convention long enough to do the charity auction and buy some stuff from the dealer's den, and that was a blast. We played games in the hotel room 90% of the weekend. It was awesome.
Yeah. So it's just sort of like a mini holiday with friends in that case, I guess. Then.
Oh, 100%. And that's what some people will look at these conventions as.
Yeah.
So for the bulk majority of people, they may attend 1 to 2 conventions a year. They're not crazy people like me that goes to 7 to 8 in a single year span. And those days are like your vacation days. That's whenever you get to see your friends in real life if you live far away from them and you get to hang out with all these people. Just have fun. There's no requirements for fun except for, are you having it? And if you're not, then find somebody that's willing to make the fun for you.
Yeah. Find someone a bit more extroverted, I guess. And on the other side of the coin, suppose you're a fursuiter, in your case, Frost. What would you advise to suitors to ensure that their convention experience is as good as possible?
Oh, what I would advise to people who do want to suit at a convention, first things first, wash your suit. Nobody likes a musky husky. That's the one thing that people complain about the most, is when people don't wash their fursuit.
Really? Okay.
It really is, and even it not only makes the attendees' lives miserable, it also makes the staff's lives miserable, because almost all the fursuit lounges, which most Furcons have, I can't say for all, are staffed by staff, just to make sure that no one who isn't in suit gets in suit.
Yeah.
You'll run into that at any type of convention, though, whether it be an anime convention, a furry convention, games con. There are rules. So Frost, I'm sure you've heard the rules of conventions, and the rule is 6 hours of sleep, 2 meals a day, 1 shower. Follow the rules. If you can't follow the rules, you need to learn the rules. We'll remind you, especially the dealers. The dealers will remind you, because on the last day of a convention, 90% of the dealers know what they're walking into. We're going to walk in, we're going to sit down, and we're going to smell you from the room over. Make sure you take a shower. It's super important. I get where Frost is coming from with this. It's okay to be a little musky because you're hanging out in the suit and you're sweating, but don't go 4 days without taking a shower, please. It's not cool.
And it's not even your own personal hygiene. It's also your suit hygiene as well. Wash your suit before you go to a convention, and also make sure that you bring either some sort of deodorizer spray or dry soap, just so that you can wash it up and do touch-ups while you're actually
while you're at the con.
Yeah.
And most of us will have that on hand in the dealer's room. Even the ones that aren't selling it, we tend to carry some. So don't be afraid to ask. It's okay. We get it.
Yeah, it's surprising. Honestly, I never. I mean, obviously you hear the stereotypes and such, but I never imagined that would be actually a real thing. But yeah, that's really insightful. And obviously for fursuiters, we had fursuiters in our podcast last week, and we mentioned it's important to keep hydrated and that sort of thing as well, because if you're gonna lose a lot of water.
That's the huge joke at every convention. Again, and it's a universal joke. Stay hydrated, my friends, because you're packed in with people, man. You're packed in. We've seen many a person just collapse. Whether it be from hydration issues, from overheating,
exhaustion,
overhydration. I had one girl actually freak out because she knew who I was and pass out on my table.
Oh my God.
It happens. Stay hydrated. It's super important. Holy crap.
Wow. So changing the tone a little bit. In 2014, Midwest Fur Fest suffered a chlorine gas attack, and innately as furries, and in an age of terror globally, we are sadly likely to come upon similar situations again in the future. And I was wondering what security and protocol generally tends to be like at the Furcons you've attended. Are there solid plans for situations like this? Are they rigorously discussed and publicized, or is it a bit more sort of in the air?
Historically, it depends on the size of the convention and who's running it. For the most part, there are people that check you whenever you come in. They will check your bags. They'll go through. Larger conventions even go so far as to have IR badges where you actually have to badge into the convention hall and badge out whenever you leave. Not
Okay.
only for the security of the people within the hall, but if, let's say, there's a fire or an earthquake, they can check and see whose IR badge is still currently within the building due to checkout.
Right. Oh, that's clever. Yeah.
Smaller events tend to be a little more loose. Now, what we always have security. It's not only required by your convention insurance, which there's convention insurance if you guys didn't know about that.
Uh-huh.
And so you will always have somebody on security detail during the event, whether it's 1 to 10, depending on the size of the hall. As far as safety goes, and especially regarding the event that you just mentioned, there's always been, even before that, there's always been that opportunity for somebody to do something like that at a convention. But for the most part, we don't see a lot of it. The very scarce times that we do have situations like that, very, very, very brave security guards either step up or members of the community will say something.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me in 2008. We had a situation with a guy that was very mentally unstable. Nobody knew. He was at the convention. He was talking to somebody in the middle of the hotel lobby. It was obvious he was in distress, and he was escorted out, and we talked to him, and we found out the guy was not doing hot and possibly could have done something at that convention once. And I won't say which convention, I won't say what guy,
Okay.
but it is a thing. It is something that could potentially happen. So keep yourself safe. Remember, everybody at the convention for the most part is there to have fun, is there to hang out with you. But don't invite every single person that you meet into your room, and definitely keep yourself on fun mode, but reserved fun mode.
Yes, it's all about, remembering to have fun, but also keeping your wits about you and keeping an eye out for anything that looks dodgy.
These are still
Okay.
people. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're all people. Even if the guy is in a suit, and we might potentially see that person as, oh, they're cute and cuddly and fluffy, let's go hang out. They're still people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And people are awesome and amazing and also scary.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, I'm going to finish our prepared questions by actually dropping a pretty big bombshell and announcing for the first time publicly that we're going to be hosting 2 furry conventions in 2020, one in the US and one in Europe, most likely in the UK. As convention attendees, what advice do you guys have for us? What do you want to see? And equally important, what don't you want to see?
Frost, I'll let you go first, man.
Oh, well, first things first, one thing that I do want to see is, and this is going off of BLFC and my experience there and how, in my opinion, it's falling apart. I'm not sure if you guys already have the location chosen or if you don't have the location. If you don't, try and choose somewhere that has at least 2 or 3 hotels within the area that you can at least easily walk to. Just because if you start filling up one hotel, you can have overflow into another hotel. If the hotel that you're choosing starts to say, hey, we don't like you, you can easily swing to one of the other hotels and still be within the same area.
Thank you.
Yeah, choosing a good hotel is very important, and communicating with the hotel that you're going to be hosting the convention at, if you're going to be doing it within their properties, is wildly important. And you'll see that historically among heads that they make really good connections with whoever the manager or the branch owner of those hotels are. As somebody that has run 2 other conventions for myself, I will say that number one, making sure that you're taken care of on your end is very, very important. Make sure your staffers are good. Make sure to have extra staffers in case somebody gets there and decides, well, my staff duties were done on Friday. Well, your staff duties were Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And now we're down. So make sure that you have a good amount of qualified volunteers, and don't be shy to take in new volunteers. They're great. Most people are just happy to be in the convention hall and do their time and then go do whatever they want to do. As far as the convention itself, I 100% want to say for the attendees that it's important to have events that you guys personally put together, because letting others bring in their own events is not only a great part of the community and one of the most fun things that you can do, but you also want to make sure you're covered and have separate events that you guys control, so that there's always going to be something around those blocks. So you're not left with a 7 o'clock p.m. to 9 p.m. block where there's nothing. There's no panels, there's no games, and people are just like, well, I guess we'll leave then, when we've got panels after 9 that maybe are artists and such that are trying to get their name out there and talk and do their thing, and they can't because everybody's already left. They're like, oh, well, we'll get food.
You sort of always want to have something people can do.
Absolutely. Keeping the hall full is not only great for the community, but it's great for the people that are there. One other thing that I would highly suggest is making sure you take really good care of your the people in your convention hall as far as booths and as far as panels, because those guys are the all-stars of the conventions. They make it happen for you. And at most conventions that we're taken care of really well. At some others, not so much. So take the lesson from me that's seen conventions come and go. Take care of those guys. They will love you for it.
And they'll come back.
They will come back, and they'll be happy to do so.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for the advice. That's I'm obviously very excited about this, and we'll have to see what comes of things next year. But for now, we're going to turn to our lovely live audience and answer some of the questions they have left for us. First off, we have a question from Kenshi over on Telegram. Kenshi asks, what do you normally buy from the dealer's den, if anything?
Oh,
or everything.
That's so hard. So
what's your favorite thing you've bought in that case? Let's make it a little easier.
Okay. Well, as an artist, I tend to gravitate towards art. And one person in particular, it was actually at a My Little Pony convention, not a Furrycon, and they're known as Shadowbox, and they make beautiful artwork out of those Shadowbox displays and cut cardboard and mixed materials. And it's a 3 foot by 4 foot shadow box of Luna, Princess Luna, and it's just so well done. It's from every angle. There's something new. It's in 3D.
Yeah,
that piece was $550, and it's a one of a kind, and I love it
unique. I could
so
imagine.
much. It's so nice.
You could put that in your main room as like a sort of centerpiece, and
it's a beautiful piece of art. Yeah, I love it.
Sounds fantastic. What about you, Frost? What's your favorite thing you've ever bought from the dealer's den?
Oh, I've only been to 3 conventions so far, so I'm fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite thing so far, obviously for my icon, I'm a dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So this last MFF, there was a creator called Jay's Creations, who makes scale mail tails, gauntlets, sleeves, and I was able to buy one of her tails, and it fits the character, and I have a tail now.
Yeah.
You'll notice that fan-made materials like that are so much nicer than what you'll buy at a box store, and there's so many box stores that people buy buy those accessories from. Definitely
Yeah.
buy something from your local convention. You'll be very happy about it, as Frost is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you've got the creator's passion and their soul has gone into that product. Where if it's just sort of mass produced for a store, you're going to not have the same feel for it. I mean, I'm actually surprised to hear that this sort of thing. You know, as I mentioned, I've never been to a con. I just thought it'd be sort of artists sat at tables and they're sketching stuff. But you're really saying it's a lot more than that.
There's so much more.
Wow, gosh. I must go to one of these.
I want to give you a little bit of a taste, so I will
Uh-huh.
tell you a little bit about Alamo City before we move on to questions.
Okay.
Alamo City last year, we had Majira Strawberry, who did an excellent panel on the After Dark. That was just so much fun. We sat down and talked for like an hour after it was done. It was super fun and really approachable. Splat and Omnom were there, and they did live DJing and stuff. And it was a the After Dark parties and the after hours parties, not just after dark, after hours parties were a blast. We had one guy that was doing Jackbox all night. People coming rotating in and out and doing that. We had a party from midnight until 6 a.m. on Sunday, and I had to work that Sunday morning. And
Where's your 6 hours of sleep? You've broken the con rules.
Yeah, I broke the con rules. I'm a senior veteran. I'm allowed to.
All right. We'll forgive you. It sounds so immersive. Gosh,
it is. It's like walking into another world.
Yeah.
4 to 5 days, 3, 4, 5 days. It's so magical. It's an experience that you will not get anywhere else. And I've told every person that's ever said, "Well, I don't know if I'd like to go to a con."
Yeah.
I tell them,
you won't regret it.
Buy a 1-day ticket. They're there. Buy the first day, go in and see if you like it, because I guarantee you will.
Yeah. And then they stay for the whole thing, probably.
Absolutely, 9 times out of 10.
Oh, that sounds incredible. We'll move on now to another question over from Telegram. Malai Drago asks, is it really as an SFW behind the scenes as people say? Are there people that mark their rooms with door signs that say come inside and have fun, or is it not really like that?
I knew this question was coming. It happens in real life. Every time I go to a convention, somebody will walk up to my table and they'll be like, so do you know of any room parties happening afterwards?
Really?
And I'm like, yeah, there's about like 100 of them, but it's not going to be one of those things where you just walk in and
walk in. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk real here, guys. We're all people. We're all, for the most part, the people that are going to these conventions are adults, and we all have our own hotel rooms, which is basically like your own little house, and we do things in there.
Yeah.
But you're not invited.
Yeah. I think in terms of safety as well, you should kind of think of it as the same as well. Am I going to screw some random guy on the street who I'd never met before? Probably not. But you know,
would you just walk up to somebody and be like, "Hey, look, dumpster." Same thing. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
As far as NSFW stuff goes, though, I mean, yeah, there's outliers. There are outliers, but for the most part, nah. You're not going to run into a whole lot of that, and if you do, it's because you asked to be part of it, and that's all in making connections with people. So if you're wanting that, I mean, you could probably try to find it. I'm not going to guarantee it's there. If you're not looking for that, don't worry, it's not in your face,
because it's not going to get thrown at you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's I'm sure that's relieving to most people. That's good to hear. Next we have Mizuno, who asks, are there a lot of... Oh, here we go, more NSFW. Mizuno asks, are there actually a lot of black market deals in cons? So he means by that, NSFW booths in certain section of the trade hall.
Yes.
Okay,
this is actually a real thing. Okay, so let me explain. So at conventions, there are 2 types of conventions. There is the 100% PG-13 convention where you go in and everything's hunky-dory. You're not going to find anything in the convention hall that's going to be offensive to you. Then there's the second type of convention where in the back of the convention hall, there's this separate room with a little door on it that says 18 on it.
Really?
And
okay.
There's going to be a guy at the front that's going to say, "Let me see your badge."
Yeah.
You see the badge, he will let you walk in, and yeah, there's an entire section in there dedicated to it.
Right. Well, That's a
Those are
relief
the
to hear as well. They keep it separate because you don't want
now.
underage kids walking around and finding that
Now, I
sort of stuff.
will say that there are, again, outlier situations. So, if you're familiar with who Brayburn is,
Yes.
yes, Brayburn and me have been friends for a very long time, and there's a reason for that. When I went to Kansas City BronyCon back in 2014, I had met him for the first time. We were boothing together right across from one another. And I saw him, he all day he was selling his works and doing his thing, all great. This is a completely PG-13 con. There's no 80 anything, which is fine. I saw him while I was sitting down at my booth. I look over and a guy walks by, taps the table 3 times, and he puts his hand underneath his booth. And I see the guy's got his hand underneath the drapery. The guy grabs it, lays down $50 and walks away. And I go, Rayburn. And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, we've never talked to each other before.
Yeah.
And I go, what did you just sell him there? And he flushes and he looks down and then he looks at me. Don't tell the con heads. And I was like, what are you gonna do to make it up to me? And he drew something and handed it to me. I'm not gonna say what it was, but he drew something and handed it to me. And after that day, we've been friends. He's great people. But yeah, you will run into that every once in a while. I am going to say, as a good con goer and boother, if you see that in a PG-13 area, please report it to your local con head or one of the members of staff. You can usually identify them by a staff badge or a shirt. As a degenerate, I'm going to say, just shut up and walk away. It's going to happen whether or not you like it. So just walk away.
Yeah, gosh. Soft Diamond, one of our new admin trialists, asks, what's your worst trade hall or market experience inside a con?
VisionCon was probably the worst. It was 5 booths and 15 people. For 3 days. And on the 3rd day, I walked in the morning and they were breaking down the tables. I was like, I paid $500 for this booth. I don't know what you're doing.
Sort of a lack of organization, I guess, then.
100%. And this is a con that's been going since 1999.
Wow.
They just dropped the ball. It was not a good experience. Yeah, it's probably my worst. Frost, you've been to 3. Were there any that weren't quite up to snuff?
Oh, I want to say one con. I'm not sure what happened, but like generally in sort of like the sort of oh, why am I spacing it? What's it called?
The dealer's den?
The dealer's den, thank you.
There you go. It's like I've been to a con
place I live.
But inside the dealer's den, you generally have 2 or 3 rows of tables with walkways in between, so you can fit 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
One year I went to BLFC, and I'm not sure what happened, but there were probably too many dealers for the room space that they had.
Yeah.
You could barely fit one person between the tables.
We've been there, done that. Overbooking for the win. When everybody shows up.
I guess it's all about bottom line profit and such in some cases as well. If you've got an unscrupulous organizer, kind of a shame, but business is business.
You'll see people overbook conventions all the time, and what they're expecting is that somebody just doesn't show up and forgets to refund their check, right?
Yeah.
But then you'll have conventions where I've been stuck in the corner of a room once, like almost behind another person, because they were like, well, we don't have any spots left. Sorry, you showed up an hour after everybody else did. And it was like, wait, I marked my booth over there. They're like, yeah, the 2 of you marked the same spot. I was like, what?
Organizational travesty.
I will give you a second one though that was just as bad. I had the 15 people one. I had a 50,000 person one that was terrible as well, and it was because I was a furry artist at an anime convention, one of the largest anime conventions in the US.
Yeah.
And I flopped so bad. That weekend I had 3 people come to my booth and repeatedly buy the same things from me because they knew who I was and felt terrible.
Oh no. Was it just that your sort of target market wasn't at that convention then?
Yes, it was
Right.
exactly that. It was a
Ah.
50,000 person convention. I paid $7,000 just for the booth. I drove
Gosh.
18 hours to get there that day. It was a 32-hour trip all across the US to get to where I was going. And I had a great time, but as a boother, as somebody who was actually selling stuff as a vendor,
Yeah.
it was a terrible weekend. I sat there most of the time playing Sudoku on my computer
Oh
and
no.
in League of Legends because I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm just gonna sit here in this swarm of people and look at the pretty cars over in the corner over there.
Yeah, sorry for our League of Legends admins who are listening, but if you have to resort to playing League as an escape, something's gone wrong.
Yes. Oh god.
Skaith asks, what's your funniest experience with a fursuiter at a con?
With a fursuiter or fursuiting?
With a fursuiter or fursuiting, either way.
I think the time that I met Cabot. Cabot, there's so many of them out there, but this guy's actually pretty popular. Is a big giant rabbit with a monocle and a top hat. He's great people. He decided that I looked lonely at this convention, and
Right.
I don't know why. I had people bugging me while he was staring at me, looming over me at the booth because this guy is massive, and I'm like, oh god, giant rabbit,
Intimidating.
right? And he stares at me, and what possessed him? He's also an older guy, which not a lot of people know. Cabot is got to be in his 50s or so, still up there shooting and doing his thing. He like puts his hand, plants his paw on the side of the table, and like swings himself behind my booth and sits next to me, and then loudly berates, "Hear ye, hear ye! The artist Lulu VZ requires your attention promptly." And I sat there and was ashamed and wanted to run away because about 30 people in the hall all stared at this giant rabbit and the dude that was trying to draw a commission just staring down, and they all walked away. Just immediate evacuation of the spot that I was in. And I was like, oh no, I am now that guy at the convention for the rest of the weekend. Remember that guy that had the rabbit screaming behind his booth?
Oh no. Wow.
It was hilarious. He spent the rest of the time just hanging back there with me, patting me on the back, saying, "I'm sorry. I was trying to help." And I was like, "Go away, giant rabbit. Get me a drink."
What about you, Frost? What's either your funniest experience with another suitor, or how about yourself because you are a suitor?
I'd have to say just fursuit piles.
Okay.
Like a bunch of suitors just decide, hey, let's pile on this non-suitor.
Oh, the dog pile, yes.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Dog
Do they
piles,
expect it?
sometimes.
Okay.
Other times it's just random target chosen, must attack now, and 5 huskies are all on top of you. You scream for help, and everyone around is pointing and laughing and saying, "Oh, so cute." And you're like, "Please, I'm like
no.
600 pounds. Help."
It also gets really hot really fast.
In a fursuit?
The person underneath, because you're being covered by these guys in carpets, and you don't know what to do with yourself.
Wow. Oh my lord. Koval asks, what's the best way to find roommates for cons if you don't want to be in your own room?
Aha! Another good question, because this is another good way to get to your first convention. Money restrictions, it's a thing. not everybody can afford to spend $700 on a hotel room at a big convention over the weekend. So sharing booths, or not sharing booths, sharing hotel rooms is really, really important. Most of the time, you'll find people on the forums on the website that is hosting the convention. You'll see people that are asking for room shares and ride shares. That's a good way to do it. Another good way to do it is to go into the Facebook groups and ask around there. If you're really, really, really desperate to get in and you haven't heard anything, it's the day of the con and you're like, man, I want to be here, but I don't have anybody to room with me and I'd really like to split it. You can ask people. And most of the time people are cool with spending the time with you in the hotel room, split half the money. But remember what I said earlier, these are still people. So do a little bit of research with it.
Yeah.
Don't just invite anybody into your room because you could walk in and all of your stuff is gone. I had all of my camera equipment disappear out of a hotel room once whenever I invited a guy to stay with me. I wonder where that camera equipment is now.
Wow, gosh. I think a lot of people on Telegram and Twitter, when they're going to conventions, they'll say at MFF 2019 and this sort of thing. And I think a lot of us have friends and we can sort of look down our list and say, oh, look, I've got 10 friends going. Let's ask those first. Because it, as DGB says, they're people. Let's remember that. You probably know your friends a little bit better than, a random guy. And
even your online friends, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I suppose if you're going with someone random, you don't know if they're going to bring 6 people back to have a room party in your shared room, which could be a bit awkward. So
it is always a possibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, really, just look around. For conventions, today's day and age is really made things easy because you can see who's going where, and you'll find your online friends will be going to those conventions, and if they're not, you can probably find somebody reputable to go with you. Back in the day, it was you would just have to get to the convention, and before you booked in, you just ask people, "Hey, did you get a room?" And they'd go, "I don't know who you are." Yes. Do you want to booth up? Yeah, let's do that. Sometimes it went well and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah.
I've spent the night inside of the dealer's den once, sleeping on the floor. And Peter New, who is a voice actor, came in and was like, "Why are you still here?" And I was like, "Because I don't have a room." And he was like, "Oh, do you want a drink?" Yes, let's go do that.
We've got a question from Dana the Otter who asks, what's your most awkward experience at a convention? How do you deal with, and he puts in inverted commas, abstract individuals?
I already told you about Cabot. I don't know what you want from me.
How about you then, Frost? Have you had any sort of weird, awkward sort of moments where someone's freaked you out a little bit, or how do you deal with that?
Oh, I think my weirdest experience at a convention would be at my first convention. Just because, well, obviously I was like new experience. I knew one person and no one else. And B, I went into the zoo, which is sort of which in convention terms is just sort of the general area. Just the general hangout area. There's generally food, drinks, that sort of thing there. I sat down at one of the tables, and unbeknownst to me, I sat down in a group of dragons. And the person I sat next to turned out to be one of the admins of a Telegram group that is mostly dragons.
Okay.
And he turned to me and went, "Are you a dragon?" "Yeah." "You want to join a chat?" "Sure."
And it turned out you knew the guy?
Nope.
But he just happened to be, wow.
Nice.
I guess that takes recruitment to the next level, doesn't it?
And that's
Simba.
where I met like 20 people in one moment.
Simba, you will do that, and I know you. Hey, do you
want to join Furry Valley? I've got a flyer. Yeah, you get this QR code, get your phone out.
Take this flyer. Take this flyer from me, please. Hey, you take this flyer.
I could work in sales. Yeah, let me tell you, I could get hired in sales. No trouble.
Oh yeah.
Nosy Nate asks, "What's it like seeing a Popufur at a convention?"
What now? Popular. Somebody.
Like a really popular, like Majira, someone who's sort of prolific, like Kage, these sorts of people.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I've not heard the term before. All right, cool. It's fun. So I've been to enough conventions. This might be a better question for Frost than I, but I've been to enough conventions and been starstruck enough times that
You're just used to it.
at this point, it's more fun to freak them out by going up and acting like a normal person.
Yeah.
And they go, "What? You don't want an autograph?" I'm like, "No, you want to go get a hamburger?" Like, yeah.
I guess
everybody at the end of the day, they're real folks, and they're just fun to be around. They just happen to be a little more popular than your average Joe Schmo. But at the end of the day, we all eat and sleep and use the restroom and shower. So I mean, yeah, just remember it like that. But it can be fun depending on if it's somebody you're really into. If I met Telephone, which I haven't, weirdly enough, I haven't met Telephone. If I had met Telephone, I'd have been like all
he's a fanboy.
Oh yeah, they're like, "Come here, come." But yeah, that experience can be a lot of fun too. Just remember, don't take it overboard. Don't be that guy that or girl that just runs over there and grabs them by the waist and pulls them over to you, because that is the number one way for them to nope out of the situation. Be like, not about it today.
What about you, Frost? Have you seen anyone super popular, and what was it like, if so?
So, I have actually run into and had a conversation with and like hung out with one super popular fur, actually.
Was it Telephone?
No.
Dang it.
Who? Sorry.
I actually met Varka, who is the owner of Bad Dragon.
Yes.
And at the time, I didn't know who he was. So it was a normal person. I didn't know who he was, and then I found out that it's like, huh.
I think that perhaps that's a relief to these sorts of people when they do meet people who are sort of naive to the whole situation of, you're actually mega popular, because you get treated like a person. It must be like a movie star who, could you imagine someone who's never seen Will Smith and they're just like, "Yeah, what's up? Let's get a drink."
Yeah,
it must be.
That's one of the best parts of going to conventions and having that realization, is that you can actually meet up with these really popular people. Peter New is one of my favorite people in the world, and me and him will go to drinks anytime we go see each other at a convention. But at the same, it can be exciting for them to see people fanboying, fangirling around them. Yeah, that's fun and exciting. But they see that every single time they go to a convention.
Yeah,
treat them like a person, and they're going to be way happier. Trust me, 10 out of 10. They want to sit there and jam out.
Be like everyone else. Yeah.
They want to have fun at the convention too.
Yeah. Kyle Moon asks, when at a convention, what are the things you should do and should not do so that you'll get noticed but not draw too much attention to yourself? So not be that Cabot, basically.
Yeah, let's go through some ground rules. It's okay to be excited. I want you guys to be excited when you go to conventions. That's a natural feeling, a natural reaction. We want to be able to express that we're excited. Please don't do backflips into people. Please don't yell at every person you meet. And if you're gonna bark at people, which I am one of those people that does, get too excited to have a couple drinks and will bark. If they tell you to stop, just back off. It's cool.
Yeah. So it's about respecting their personal space and stuff. Still.
Respect people's boundaries. If you're super extroverted, which I can sometimes be, just remember, not everybody is. Yeah. So have fun, but don't be the guy that runs behind somebody's booth and yells awkwardly at people to come visit them, because that's a Cabot. Don't be a Cabot.
Probably not going to help.
Yeah, don't be a Cabot.
Oh dear.
On top of that, I also want to add, at conventions, it's normal for people to like grab drinks, have booze, lose track of how many drinks they've had.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
One of the biggest ground rules that I can recommend: always make sure to drink water.
Yeah.
This year at MFF, even before the con started, we had people going to they had people.
Okay.
They had people going to the hospital because of alcohol poisoning.
Wow. Gosh, they got that like a day early, I guess.
Got
Some
there a day
people,
early, started partying before the convention started.
some people start drinking right at the beginning of the day.
So I suppose you make a spectacle of yourself if you threw up in your fursuit, wouldn't you? Oh, that's gonna be hard to clean.
Yeah, don't be the drunk a-hole. It's okay to be the fun drunk guy. Don't be the drunk a-hole that's stealing people's heads and stuff. Yeah, it's probably not a good choice.
Yeah.
By the end of the weekend, we were like almost all the attendees were used to seeing an ambulance pulling up into the front of the hotel, just going, "Huh? Wonder who passed out this time."
Wow.
That's a little more intense than what I've seen, but yeah.
Next, we have TG Tiggy has said, it's easy for an outsider, even when attending a furry con with a furry, to get some misconceptions purely based on observations. Is there anything that can be done to preempt or correct the misunderstandings by the convention staff, and can attendees do their part as well?
Oh, yay. Somebody that's thinking about the normies. Okay, so this is something I run into all the time. Actually, I was just at I was in Wisconsin Dells for a convention called Aquatifer, and after everything was said and done, me and a couple others decided to go hang out in the hot springs outside. And there's just normal people hanging out. This is a huge hotel, and there was bound to be all kinds of different people there, and some of the folks there were talking about the Furcon that's happening. Oh, those fursuiters are probably up there doing the yiff and the such. And I was like, yeah. And so I start making friends with them and talking to them, and I go, I'm. And they go, oh, well, we didn't mean anything by that. I was like, no, don't worry about it. Would you like to know more about how this all works and what the fandom's about? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and explain it. Really, if you sit down and explain it in a way that's not, well, it's a bunch of people that like to dress up as animals and go in back rooms and do stuff.
Yeah. It's all about clearing up the public misconceptions. Yeah, just be normal.
Be normal and explain it. Even if your worldview is, in it for the yiff, and I know some of those folks. Most of us aren't. And
don't make us look like that. Yeah.
Just explain it in a way that makes sense. And if they are genuinely confused and want to know more, they'll listen to you. If they don't care to know more, don't worry about those people. Yeah, they'll be like, oh, well, I don't care. I have my worldview. And you go, oh, sorry, we'll see you. The guy I talked to at that Hot Springs ended up buying a ticket for the next day and hanging out and had a blast. And he was like a 6.5 foot tall bodybuilder that was hanging out there with his wife, and he had a great time. And he came to my booth. He was like, I'm so glad you talked to me last night because I didn't know this was what it was about.
Wow.
And he's like, how do I make a fursona?
How do I become a furry? Yeah.
How do I become a furry? Initiate me, please. It was so much fun. But yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah.
Maybe that was the Cabot. You said he was tall. Wow. Could you imagine? Next we have Nosy Nate again asks, what's the average price for all the expenses when attending a convention?
Okay.
And what you should do when you first get there as well.
Okay, the first thing you should do is book into your hotel room. Please. Book in, don't wait. Number 2, the costs that you guys need to worry about is it's super important to remember you only have as much money as you've got. So book your hotel room and pay it in advance.
Yep.
Get this done. You don't want to be stuck on the second day of the convention with no room. Second, make sure you have a ride to and from and a guaranteed ride. So either you drove your own, have public transportation that you can back up on, or somebody's 100% able to get you and you have a backup.
Yeah, you don't want drama, and then your friend won't take you back 3,000 miles home. Oh dear.
That happens. I've seen it happen. I've seen
Really?
somebody
Oh,
crying in the lobby because they couldn't get back home. I bought them a
wow.
bus ticket because they had no other way to get home. It does happen.
Jeez.
Make sure if you're gonna be 16 hours away from your home, either make sure you brought yourself in one mode of transportation or another, or the person that brought you is somebody you can really trust and you have a backup. You have a
Yeah.
way to get home because you don't want to be stuck in a city you don't know
Yeah,
with
yeah,
no way
yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Food. If you guys eat out every day, that's up to you. That's what I do. I can't be bothered. But make sure you have enough money for food, even if you have to go to the local Aldi and get food and bring it back to the hotel room and microwave it in the room.
Yeah.
You can't go to a convention without eating. And then the other cost is fun cost. If you want to spend money at the convention, please do. The vendors will thank you. But it's not required. We don't want you buying so much art that you can't get back home and you're on the side of the highway asking for gas.
Mm,
The old joke that we used to make is we spent all of our money on
very hard.
not safe for work art. Now we can't make it back home. I guess we need
Uh-huh.
to start selling it again. So yeah, make sure you've got money saved. If you're going to a local convention, you're probably gonna want to have at least the bare minimums covered and do your pricing research well in advance. Don't wait until the weekend before and go, well, I wonder how much this is all going to cost me. And
Yeah,
then just wing it.
budgeting. Mm-hmm.
Budget it out months in advance. When I go to conventions, I have my hotel booked. I have my flight trips planned. I have my gas planned out if it's close enough for me to drive, all at least, the very least, 3 months ahead of time.
Yeah.
And that's so that if anything happens, I can get it solved and taken care of. You can always cancel a hotel room. You can't book it once it's already full.
Yeah. I think it's especially important for people on their first time, I would say, to do this because it's less stress than, obviously got a lot of stress of actually being at the con itself and what do I do? What do I do? And if you've got all this sort of admin stuff sorted ahead of time, it'll make your life a lot simpler and a lot calmer, which, yeah.
Yeah, have backups for all your stuff, guys. That's important.
Yeah, always good to have a plan B, absolutely. I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the audience questions. We've got a few more, but I think we pretty much covered them already in what's been done. So I want to first off thank our guests. It was excellent having you on tonight. I had a lot of fun with this podcast. I came in with a terrible migraine and it's gone, and it was almost like I had a convention. I've been convinced that at some point I need to go. You guys, let me tell you, if you're an admin in this voice chat, you need to get me like 3 days off work. I've never had 1 day off, never mind. But yeah, 3 days, yeah, it'll do.
Simba, you could be my booth hand. You could be my booth hand at the next convention I go to. How about that?
No promises, but yeah, maybe. But yeah, thank you again very much, DGB and Frost, for coming on. We really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone who's been listening, asking questions. It's always nice to have people involved. Our next podcast will be back at 8 p.m. Eastern next Monday. We don't have a topic yet. If you have any topics in mind, please do get in touch with me. You can PM me. I know it says no PMs, please, but if it's for work stuff like suggesting topics for events, please do go ahead. We should have an announcement in a couple of days with what we're going to go with. And yeah, I'll be asking for speakers or guests on our next podcast. But yeah, thank you very much.